Some of these calls. KJ Gould writes for the MMA magazine. Hiya, KJ. How you doing?
Hello there. I'm quite good, thank you.
What's your point,
I
mate?
work for Bloody Elbow. We're one of the leading mixed martial arts websites.
Okay.
I've been listening to the show and watching the story develop. I think the main issue that you've talked about is that it's in a working men's club and not somewhere else. But I don't think being in a cage is too much of an issue if you know what the primary purpose of the cage is for.
Yeah, and what is the cage for?
Well, basically, you need to treat the cage for mixed martial arts or grappling in that situation more like a industrial strength playpen. It's to stop people falling out of the arena and, hurting themselves. That's the primary function.
And it's also to stop the people from the public jumping in the cage, isn't it?
You could argue that that's not the primary purpose of it, but I think more of an issue is some of these events have taken place in boxing rings where adults have fallen through the ropes and actually had more of an injury from the fall than they did from the bounce.
Well, which you would do if you fell out of a wrestling ring. If you were doing mixed martial arts, you could seriously damage your neck. But listen, the issue is but they've advertised this as cage fighting, yeah? And are you quite comfortable with the fact that they've advertised it? Being writing for a mixed martial arts magazine, are you quite comfortable to be associated with cage fighting?
I personally hate the term cage fighting. I think it does complete disservice to the sport. Although it can take place in a cage or in a fenced enclosure, whatever you want to call it, the term cage fighting obviously drums up certain ideas, and using it to promote a show, that's a big issue for me. And it's all down to basically how it's currently structured and how it's currently organised in the UK. In the USA, they have athletic state commissions. They're sporting commissions that work for the US government that regulate everything. There's very little of that over here. I don't think the Sports Council is involved in mixed martial arts, but the Sports Council is involved in perhaps judo, karate, boxing and so on. And I saw the BBC, they spoke to Culture Secretary Jeremy Hunt, who, he gave some comments on it and, he wasn't really sure what to make of it and didn't like that it was in a cage. And of course, Jeremy Hunt, Conservative MP, he's in charge of the Olympics and sport for next year. I would like him to perhaps think about investing in a structured regulatory body for mixed martial arts and grappling, and to get the Sports Council or maybe even National Lottery to fund events, proper events, so children can take part in a safe environment.
With respect, I think you are misrepresenting what Mr. Hunt said, because I've got his quotes here. He said, getting more young people doing sport is great, but I do ask myself whether it really does have to be in a cage. It just feels to me, it feels very barbaric, and I know there are concerns about children that young doing a sport like that. I think if adults choose to do it, that's one thing. I suppose I do share some of the shock that I think many of your viewers will feel. So let's not misrepresent what he said. He's called it barbaric.
Yes, that was his opinion of how it's barbaric. He also thinks boxing is fine, and yet there's a far higher concussion rate in boxing than in mixed martial arts.
Well, kids can't box competitively until 11. They've got to have a medical card and the right gear as well. I think with the cage thing that you're talking about there, I'd be surprised if the organisers thought putting the kids in a cage was for safety reasons, to be honest. And as we were speaking to Gareth A. Davis from the Telegraph before, who said it should have been on a mat. I think the whole thing would have been better if the kids had been taken off the bill for this, don't you?
I think you trying to have them on the card, even if it was just a chance for them to get some experience, even as a kind of amateur level. I think it was a mistake to have it in a working men's club, just because of what we generally associate with what goes on in working men's clubs. If it happened in a school hall, or a school gymnasium, where they don't sell alcohol and things like that, that wouldn't have been an issue. And really, it's just a lack of structure in the UK generally for the sports. That's one of the main concerns.
I'm going to say, is there enough clubs in the UK mixed martial arts for kids? Is there plenty of clubs around Britain what can organise these official events, or is it relying on people like this guy who's actually put an event together, and he wants to obviously give whether his son's part of it or not, he wants his son to fight in this arena, and that's the only way he can do it.
Well, this is it. I don't think there is enough of a proper structured outlet for children to compete in mixed martial arts or even in grappling. I mean, there's a grappling world championships actually happening in Nottingham this weekend called the ADCC. That's happening. That's like no striking or anything like that. But that's organised privately by investors, and it's not. There's no structure for it. There's no regulatory body for it. And often kids, you know, if they want to get experience on the mat, in America, wrestling is part of the school programs. They can start at 6 years old, and they go all the way through to college and possibly even into the Olympics. Yes, perhaps they should have had headgear to protect their ears, which is the main thing wrestling headgear is for. It's to stop cauliflower ears. But if you look at the World Freestyle Wrestling Championships that happened in Istanbul and Turkey this past week, you watch most competitors, the vast majority of them actually don't wear headgear. It's actually optional. But again, the headgear is more to protect their cauliflower ears rather than any cuts or concussions, which, you know, with a contact sport, sometimes bumps and bruises can happen. It's just making sure there is necessary medical people there and making sure it is structured in a way where, you know, they avoid it as best as they possibly can.
Yeah, reducing the risk, I think. KJ, thanks for calling in the show. Appreciate it.
Thanks, mate.